How does one become whole after being assigned 2, maybe 3/5 of human value? James Madison, the primary author of our U.S. Constitution and a slaveholder, wrote this passage during the Constitutional Convention of 1787. He writes, "We subscribe to the doctrine, might one of our Southern brethren observe, that representation relates more immediately to persons, and taxation more immediately to property. And we join in the application of this distinction to the case of our slaves. But we must deny the fact that slaves are considered merely as property, and in no respect whatsoever as persons. The true state of this case is that they partake of both these qualities, being considered by our laws in some respects as persons, and in other respects as property. In being compelled to labor, not for himself, but for a master, in being vendible by one master to another master, and in being subject at all times to be restrained in his liberty and chastised in his body by the capricious will of another, the slave may appear to be degraded from the human rank, and classed with those irrational animals which fall under the legal denomination of property. In being protected, on the other hand, in his life and in his limbs, against the violence of all others, even the master of his labor and his liberty, and in being punishable himself for all violence committed against others, the slave is no less evidently regarded by the law as a member of the society, not as a part of the irrational creation, as a moral person, not as a mere article of property. The federal Constitution, therefore, decides with great propriety on the case of our slaves when it views them in the mixed character of persons and of property. This is in fact their true character. It is the character bestowed on them by the laws under which they live, and it will not be denied that these are the proper criterion, because it is only under the pretext that the laws have transformed the Negroes into subjects of property that a place is disputed them in the computation of numbers, and it is admitted that if the laws were to restore the rights which have been taken away, the Negroes could no longer be refused an equal share of representation with the other inhabitants." Dr. Joy DeGruy, clinical psychologist and author of Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, writes, "The previous excerpt is an example of an attempt at resolving the problem. Here you have slave owners having just defended their view that slaves are property, in part as justification for committing some of the most heinous crimes against other human beings, now trying to claim them as persons. It is this artist's humble opinion that we have always been and will always be more than 3/5.